Hello and welcome to this video tutorial brought to you by Tutvid.com. We're going to take a look at selecting hair in Photoshop. And this is more than just, magic wand or color range or anything like that. We're going to go pretty in depth here on how to select hair from easier to select images like this woman here on the bottom, or more difficult ones like this woman here on the top. We're going to take care of both of these using slightly different techniques, and you're going to learn how to select and make these very complex selections to get her hair to show up when we move it to another photo. So we're going to start here with this picture of New York City and this woman here. I'm just going to drag them, drop them there in Photoshop, minimize, get bridge out of the way. Okay, what we need to do first is, well, before we get started, let me just quickly explain. We have here the image of this woman, and she's on a pretty uniform background, and by that I mean it's just virtually a solid color. Slight gradation. It gets darker up here, it's lighter over here, but pretty much a solid color. That's going to make it much easier for us to select her, number one, and get her off. And just, it'll be a much cleaner selection. So it's just going to make things a lot easier for us. So this is kind of an ideal situation when you have your model, or even, it might not even be a model, it might be something else, an animal. If they're on a solid background like this, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to get them off and move them around. Whereas if it's on a different background, you're going to see how we're going to take care of that in the latter part of this video. So let's get started here. The first thing we want to do, let me pop my dock back out. We want to go to the Channels panel. Okay, if you don't have your channels here next to your layers, you can go here to Window, Channels. Now, before we start looking through these channels, your channels may show up in color. Matter of fact, I'm just going to right-click. Oops. I'm going to choose my flyout menu. So go to Palette Options real quick and choose the largest thumbnail size to make it easier for you guys to see what's going on here. It's that little flyout menu there, down at the bottom, which is off screen. And before we start going through these channels, if you do see your channels in color, I highly recommend you work with your channels as grayscale, just monochromatic, black and white, straight on, just like this. The way you can get them to go from color to the way mine are: Edit, Preferences, and Interface. And right here, just uncheck Show Channels in Color, and hit OK, and you'll be good. So that's what you need to do, and I recommend, again, not working. You don't want your channels to show up in color. So the first thing we want to do is, well, we're going to think ahead for a minute. We are going to basically create a mask that is either solid black or solid white. She's either going to be solid white or solid black. The background is going to be either solid white or solid black. So in order to do that, we want to start flipping through our channels and just looking for the most contrast. Where does her hair, and her body for that matter, pop out the most from this background? Well, red, you can see the arms are pretty light, and the background obviously is very light. Green, she starts to get darker, and blue, she's much darker. The contrast is great. You can see the background looks virtually the same in all three channels, but she gets darker. So we're going to choose the blue channel here, and that's what we're going to use. So to increase the contrast of this channel, to help make her solid black and the background solid white, we're first going to go and duplicate this channel, but duplicate it onto itself and merge them together and create a new channel. You're going to see what exactly I mean in a second. We're going to go Image, Calculations. I'm sure you all have used the Calculations dialog box. It is absolutely essential in Photoshop. I hope you can hear the sarcasm in my voice. We are going to, well, choose here Source 1 and Source 2. The Source 1 is going to be the blue channel. Source 2 is also going to be the blue channel. We're going to blend two copies of the blue channel together. And the blend mode we're going to use is Overlay. I think Multiply is the default. We're going to choose Overlay because that's going to increase our contrast. You can see much more contrast. If I uncheck Preview, that's before. This is now after. So much more contrast. And we want the result to be a new channel. So we're going to hit OK and check it out. We have a new channel, Alpha 1. Great. We're going to work in this channel. What I want to do is still increase the contrast further. So we're going to hit Control L. That would be Command L if you're on the Mac, to bring up the Levels dialog box. What I want to do here is simply start increasing the blacks and also pushing the whites over a little bit, but not too much. If you push them over too much when you have a lot of whites already, you're going to start having all this weird fragmenting happening, which is going to really be bad for our mask. Keep sliding it over. Be careful with it. Just slide it over, slide it over. Really, once you have all the edges completely solid black like this, we can just hit OK. We can grab the brush tool and get ourselves a decent hard edge brush. In this case, maybe about 60 pixels to start, maybe a little bigger. We can just use our bracket keys to make it bigger or smaller. And we can just paint in black. Oh, I gotta increase my flow. There we go. Just gonna paint in black all over, you know, where her body is. Cover up the face. Again, keeping all of the spots and things here on the edges of her hair all intact as far as the mask is concerned. Alright, I'm gonna zoom in here on her arm. We're going to grab the brush tool again. That's hotkey B. I'm going to use my left bracket key to size my brush down and just ensure that I have all of this painted solid black. This is where having a tablet kind of comes in handy. You can just get right along that edge, right from the tip of the finger down, right up to the tip. There we go. Got that side. I'm going to touch up her shoulder over here. Increase the size of my brush a little bit. And I believe, well, we got to get the jewelry she's got there on her wrist. And there. The only thing we have left to do, let me zoom in one, is right up here. All of this has to be white. So what I'm going to do is just hit the X key, which flips foreground and background colors. We'll make our foreground color white. If that is not white, just hit the D key, and that'll bring you back to your default black and white. And you use X to toggle between black and white. So I'm going to use my right bracket key to make my brush much bigger, and we're just going to make sure all of this background is white. I'm just going to quickly, just go over it. Yep, so there's a little bit of gray in that corner. Oops, I messed up the top of her hair. Okay, so there we go. We're pretty well sure that we've got this. She's solid black, the background's solid white. So now, let's just invert the colors on this channel. Just Control or Command I. That just flips it. That's because the white is actually going to be our selection. When you're dealing with these channels, when I Control click, see that? The white there is our selection. I'm going to Command or Control D to deselect that. I'm going to turn my original channel back on and make sure you select that RGB channel. So now we're back working with the RGB. You can shut off this alpha channel. Go back to your layers panel now and hold down the Alt or the Option key and double click the background layer. That converts to a regular layer. Now go select, load selection, and the document is just this woman brunette, black on studio shot, and the channel we want to select is alpha 1. Remember, that was the channel that I created by the calculations. Okay, and the operation is going to be creating a new selection. So just hit OK, and voila, we have a nice selection around her. Now let's just pop her up onto a new layer. Let's just Command or Control J. That's just new layer via copy. You can see that she's on her own. Let's bring her over into the other document we have, which is this this image here. Go back to my other document, and I'm just going to hit Control A or Command A. That selects all. I'm on that layer. And I'm going to hit Edit. Copy. And by the way, to switch documents quickly, I'm just hitting Control or Command Tab. Quick way to switch back and forth between your open documents in Photoshop. Now Command or Control V to paste her in. Now, if you are following along with an image, you probably notice you're going to have some light edges on the hair. Alright, all up here, light edges. Now, we always will have some light edges, but we can make it a little better. So let's delete that real quick and just pop back over this document. We need to go back into our channel, this alpha channel, and edit this just a little bit. Not too much, but just a little bit. We're going to Control or Command click the thumbnail of that channel. That loads it as a selection. What I'm going to do now is come up here to Select Refine Edge. Now, if you're not using CS3, Photoshop CS3, if you're using CS2, CS, you do not have Refine Edge. So if you do, I'll tell you what to do. You're going to be coming down here to Modify, and you're going to be doing Contract and Feather. But I'll give you the amount you're going to contract and feather in just a second. So we're going to hit Refine Edge. I want to contract this by, contract at 20%. So I'm going to hit negative 20, and I want to feather at 0.2 pixels. Now, if you're using Select, Expand, or Contract, you want to contract at 1 pixel, and you want to feather at 0.2, just like me. So hit OK. There we go. We've done that. Now, what we need to do is invert this selection, because right now the white is selected. We want to select the black, so we can go Select, Inverse. This is not the inverting of the colors that we did earlier. That was actually, choosing the opposite of whatever color is there. This is simply inverting the selection. And now with it inverted, we are going to hit X to set black as our foreground color right there. I just switched it. And Alt Backspace or Option Delete, excuse me, if you're on the Mac, to fill that in with black. Now hit Command or Control D to deselect. Okay, so we've got a new selection here. Let's see what that does for us. We can just load the selection by control clicking this channel, the eyeball to shut it off. Again, select that RGB channel so we can make our cut. We can delete her. And we've got our original layer, Command or Control J, pop her up onto her own layer, Control A to select all, Control C to copy, Control Tab, oops, to get over to this picture, Control V, or Command or Control V I should be saying, to paste her in place. And there you go, you can see the light edges are significantly reduced by doing that. We still do have a little bit of the lightness on the edges. We can get rid of them very easily. Just drag her down, snap to the bottom. We can get rid of those light edges very easily here by simply using, where is it? The dodge tool, or the burn tool, excuse me, not the dodge tool. Burn tool is going to make it darker. I just simply have my range set to highlights and exposure set to 100, and I'm just going to kind of go over the edge of her hair here and just run over it until all of that goes away. Matter of fact, I can see a little bit of something there that came in with the other photo I don't like, but I'm not going to worry about that. Grab that burn tool, and we're just going to touch up the edges over here, and you can see that it really darkens all those edges and makes it look quite nice. And one other thing you might want to do is this highlight, for instance, is not going to be in this image on the back of her arm there, or over here probably. So you can just darken them up, burn in a few of the edges, and that is the easier way to select hair and move it from, move your model from one image to another. Let's close this and close this, and let's take a look at the much more difficult image. I'm going to hit Control Alt O, that would be Command Option O if you're on the Mac, to bring Bridge back up, and I'm going to grab these two photos here. I'm going to drag these guys right down into Photoshop. Okay, so we got her, and we want to cut her out of this scene and place her here. It's a little bit more difficult than it looks, but we are going to get it done. The first thing we want to do with this image is simply duplicate the image. So we're going to go Image, Duplicate. I like to do this with a lot of images I work on when I'm about to make any kind of major changes, just so I have an immediate backup I can fall back on. So I'm just going to duplicate this, and we're just going to call this Image for Cut. Just give it any name we want, really. And the first thing I want to do is come over to our Channels panel again. And again, we can see, we can flip through our channels. Now the problem with this image is, we have, okay, let's just take a look. I'm going to break the channels out of here. Here in the red channel, we have, she sticks out from the background pretty well, except up here we have these highlights, which if I start playing with levels, I know are going to start becoming the color of her hair. And in here, it's virtually, the background is virtually the same color as her hair, and the same thing here on the back of her arm. So we're going to have some trouble in those areas. So there are a couple ways we can go around doing that, but let's check out the green channel. The green channel, she's significantly darker. Whoops, didn't want to do that. She is significantly darker. Hair still kind of light, but she really kind of just blends in with the background. So that's definitely not going to be very good, because as I darken up the gray tones in the background, her skin's going to darken with it and render any kind of mask virtually useless. And blue just gets darker, so that really isn't going to help me. I mean, it would help me here where these areas are light, but with actually selecting her, not really. So we're going to stick this guy back in this dock. And how do we go about doing this? Well, let's grab channels again, and let's just say we're going to work with the red. I'm going to grab, clicking and holding the red, I'm going to drag it down to the new channel icon to duplicate that channel. I'm going to bust out the curves, or not curves, levels, and we're going to try here. Just push the dark over. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now immediately I see a problem. Her shoulder here is just completely gone as I pull that over. You see that? It's already gone. Pitch black. So that's not very good, and if I increase the white, by the time I get to here, the back of her arm and all of the hair here are just gone. So we really need to find a different way to do this. I'm going to delete that channel. What we're going to do is switch to a different color mode. We're going to work in LAB color for this image. So I'm going to come up here to Image, Mode, LAB color. When we go check out our channels, we now have a lightness channel and an A and a B channel. We want to well, we can look at the lightness channel. It looks pretty good. Then we have these two channels that look like they're virtually useless, but we're going to focus here on the A channel. What I want to do is I want to duplicate this channel, so I'm just going to drag it down to the new channel icon, and we're going to use levels on this channel. So I'm going to hit Control L to bring up the levels dialog box. You can see we have a much smaller histogram. The histogram is just telling us we got much less that we're working with here. So I'm going to bring the black in, and I'm going to bring the white over. And I'm going to use my mid-tone slider here to kind of move it around. Bring it over, bring the blacks over a little more. Again, I'm watching the shoulder and I'm watching the edge of the hair. The hair is the real, the thing you really want to be most careful with, because that's going to be the touchiest here. Bring the white over, over, over. Okay, we're starting to get some solid white in there. You can see we get some solid white here, and it's cutting the edge for us, which is good. Let's push the black over. Again, watch the edge of the hair. Bring it over to about like that. Okay, so we're going to hit OK for now. Now, it doesn't really look like we've done anything good, much to the contrary, you could argue, but we have actually done a lot of good. And at this point, it's a little bit of labor to get this image in tip-top shape, or this mask in tip-top shape. But the first thing we're going to do is use our brush tool, and we're just going to paint black whatever we can here in the background. Alright, I already have my brush selected that I want to use. My foreground color is black. I'm just going to paint as much of the background black as possible. Put this over here. Paint all that black. Maybe downsize the brush a little and just throw some black in here. Just like that. Okay, so what we need to do now is find a way to get, her hair here, for example, lighter. I'm going to open up levels again, and I'm going to push the whites way over. Push them over, 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 and I'm going to keep going over. Again, at this point, I'm watching the back of her arm here, because I don't want this part to get so light that we cannot distinguish the arm anymore. Push it over, and at that point, it's probably a little too light, so I'm going to start using the mid-tone slider here to start darkening up the background. Notice the hair here is darkening. Don't worry about that. We still have our nice edge going right to the black. Alright. Right there is probably about good. Okay? Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to paint as much of her white as we can. So I'm going to flip my foreground and background color, again using X, use my right bracket key to make my brush bigger. And all here I can just paint white, because I'm nowhere near the edge. I know that I'm safe. Up here, all of this is hair that's going to be selected. Use my left bracket here, size my brush down, paint that gray away. Also, note that we really have kind of a buffer here, which is making it easier for me to paint away this gray. You can see there's white, let's hit V, along this edge, which is the actual edge of the arm. We have this gray, which is sort of in a little bit. So that's kind of assisting me as far as giving me a guide, letting me know, hey, just paint up to here, and you're not going to reveal any more of the arm than you need to. So I'm just going to slowly paint along here. Whoops, and I bumped out. Doing this kind of thing is where it is really helpful to have a tablet. And that edge there, I'm not quite going to go all the way up to. Same with this edge up here, but I'm going to try to get rid of as much of this dark stuff as I can, because we want to take as much of this hair as possible. And we're going to let levels do the rest in just a second, using a slightly different technique. Alright, and all this here, we're just going to paint white. Alright, let's back out, and it's looking much, much better. The most difficult area at this point is going to be this area right here in the center. So, what I want to do is grab my lasso tool, and I'm just going to drag a selection around, oops, why did I not do the whole area? Around the whole area, just like that. Include, well, no, I'm not going to include that little guy right now. And hit Command or Control L to bring up the levels dialog box again. And I'm going to push the white over to try to really get a good grasp of, what part of the hair we are going to be selecting. And that's pretty much what we're going to be selecting there on the hair. I'm going to increase the black, use my mid-tone sliders a little bit. Now, the problem I'm going to run into is all this little fragmenting is going to look really bad in our finished mask. So I need to do something about that here. I'm going to hit OK with the levels. We're going to take care of the fragmenting in just a minute. I'm going to deselect this. And I'm just going to come in here with my brush at this point. And, well, whoops. Let me zoom out a little bit. I'm going to grab my magic wand tool and select the white, okay, which at this point is her. We've got a pretty good selection. So we've got a nice selection running along this edge here. what I'm going to do is simply invert the selection so we really have this triangle in here selected. So I'm going to hit Command or Control Shift I, grab my brush, that would be B, hit X to make black my foreground color again, and just paint all this black. Alright, you can see there's a little bit there that my magic wand has selected, which is actually not part of the arm. So make my brush a little smaller, and I'm just going to come in here and just paint that right away. Just like that. Now the only troublesome area is this bit of hair hanging down. So again, we're going to come in here with the lasso. I'm going to select this little portion. I'm actually going to grab my brush tool and paint this white because I know that all this is coming off. And this here too. Trying to remember what parts of the image are and are not coming. Open up levels again and increase the black, increase that white. Use our mid-tone slider maybe to make a decisive decision. White, black, and the mid-tones back a little bit. Hit OK. Command or Control D to deselect that, and that's pretty much what we're going to stick with there for now. Okay, again with the brush, we're just going to touch up the white here, just to make sure we got solid white. Okay, so right now that is our selection as is going to be. We need to now take care of the side of the arm here. I'm going to zoom in down here and just, again, my brush is set to white. I can just come right up to the edge. It's just the arm. This isn't really anything difficult. Just quickly paint over. And then the rest of this arm, I'm just going to envelop it in a large selection using the lasso tool. Again, Command or Control L to bring up levels. The reason we're just selecting a portion of the image to work with is so that we can only, mess with the colors right there in that area, so we don't end up messing up any of the other parts of the image. I want to increase the blacks here to really make our cut there on the arm, like so. Hit OK. There we go. We've got that masked off nicely. Let's grab this here. We're going to deal with this gray all in one big piece up there that you can see at the top of the head. Again, increasing the black to just close that out. Hit OK. Command or Control D to deselect. I'm just going to zoom in real quick, grab my brush, hit X to swap my foreground and background colors again. Just paint away that little bit of white. Just like that. Now, pretty much all of this here can be a selection, and even, oops, grab your lasso tool, even all the way down to about here. All of this will be treated about the same, so we're going to open up our levels again. And here I want to increase the white because you can see that gray there is really supposed to be hair. So we're going to push the white up, 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 up. You can see what we're doing. Now we're going to pull the black over. And nice. Just like that, we've got a pretty good selection. Command or Control D to deselect that. We're going to touch it up in just a second. The last thing I need to get is this little area down here by the shoulder. So you can see how we're breaking up the edge into smaller portions to make it much easier to work with and to ensure that we get a good selection. I'm going to zoom in again with my brush tool. I'm just going to choose white here. There's actually a plant here that's semi in front of her, but we're just going to take it as well, so we're not going to worry about that. Because again, we're more concerned with our hair selection than anything else. Alright, with black selected, I'm just going to clean up some of the little spatter that has come off of her hair. Here you can see all of this kind of junk that's floating out here. We don't want to get rid of all of it, but just take a decent amount of it away. Kind of like that. And right now we have a pretty good selection of her and her hair. Now, again, we want to control click this. Now, here she has been painted white, because she was lighter in the channel than the background. So we don't need to invert the channel. We do, however, want to come back to select, refine the edge, and for this we don't want to contract it nearly as much. Maybe -5. Alright, and this is percent. This isn't pixels, this is percentage. So if you don't have CS3 and you don't have refine edge, don't contract it at all. Just feather it about 0.2. So hit OK. And we're going to go select, inverse the selection, and again Alt backspace or Option delete if you're on the Mac to fill that with black. Okay, it's just going to soften the edges of our mask a little bit. Alright, Command or Control D to deselect that. So there we go, we have our selection of her. Now obviously here I have the channel on, and I also have the image on. This is so I can get a good look at it. And here, this part of the hair, I can see that I can get rid of this here and this edge here, and up here I can take away some of that. The rest of it looks pretty darn good. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, again, remember, we're just working in a mask, so I just want to paint with black to cover up, and that'll put this red overlay on it. So with black's my foreground color, I'm going to reduce the size of my brush a little bit. I'm just going to paint some of this black right into here and clean up that edge a little bit there. Just going to go over this a little bit. This little bit of bluish stuff you see in here will actually correct in the final image once we've moved it over to the other image. Sort of blue stuff up here we'll take care of as well. We'll treat it just like some kind of color highlight that is affecting the image. Take that out of there. And that's pretty much all the touch-up I see immediately that I want to take care of. That looks like it. Oh yes, there's a little bit of her hair hanging down here beyond the bottom of her arm. So to uncover, hit X so we can bring up white. And whoops, the arrow key there, or the side arrow bar. And there we go. We got some of that hair. I want to hit X again because I don't want it to be quite as pronounced as it is. That's good enough right there. So we've got a little bit of the hair coming through as well. Alright, wonderful. So we've got our mask. Now I can just shut this off. I can leave this document as is. I'm going to go back to my other document. This document is in RGB color mode. That's the color mode I'm working in, so I'm going to deal... I mean, I could switch the other document back to LAB, but that's just my extra document. So I'm here working in the original document again. So what I can do here is go select, load selection, and I can choose a document. See that image for cut. Remember when we duplicated the document, we gave it a name? That's the reason I gave it a name, is because I remembered, hey, in a minute I'm going to be using load selection, and I can choose a document, and I want to be sure I know which document I'm using. So, image for cut. And the channel I want to use is just a copy, because remember it's LAB, so we're using the A channel, and it's a copy of A. We didn't give it really a name. So we're going to hit OK, and you can see it's going to load the selection for us. Here, we don't have the background layer. We can just hit Command or Control J to pop her up onto her own layer. And there she is on her own layer. So now let's bring her to her own image. We're going to bring her into this image. So let me come back to here, select that layer, go select all, edit, copy, move over to that document, edit, paste. Okay, so we just pasted her in. Zoom in one touch, and we can see the edges are really in really good condition. There is, you know, a little bit of kind of junk here that could be blurred up a little bit to fix it, but this is all minor stuff, and we really got her hair over here in really good condition. This needs to be darkened up. We can just grab the burn tool again, just darken that right up, darken this up a little bit to make it match, darken up the top here to make it match, and over here we could actually probably just grab the blur tool and just blur that just a slight amount just to make it kind of match. Again, same with the stuff over here. Blur tool is the teardrop looking one. And just like that, we have moved her from being on this complex background, not really an ideal background to extract somebody from, to this background, and she matches just fine because we've extracted her with all of her hair and everything. So that is how you make complex selections for extraction of people's hair here in Photoshop. That's how it's done. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please go check out the site. That's www.tutvid.com, and thank you very much for watching.